hour and a half, 2 hours from Albany. Okay. All right.
How about now? There we go. Good afternoon and welcome to this, what is this, June 11th? What is it? What's today, Michael Heineman? June 11th meeting of the Rotary Club of Brentwood. I am Keeley Hall and I am still the president for a little longer. You're welcome. Thank you again to the 50 Forward Martin Center for hosting us today. And I have an announcement. Stay tuned for our next week's meeting. So don't sleep on that. But until then, Steve Grissom has our invocation. And Lena Sugis has our pledge and four-way test. Steve?
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful for this day. Father, we're thankful for Rotary. Father, as the Rotary Convention this year begins tomorrow, be with the virtual meeting, and may many good things come from it. May many new endeavors, many new works be founded. May we as Rotarians always put service above self, and may we always seek to serve you. Father, at this time, we want to thank you for this food and bless it to our bodies. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Please face the flag and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it true? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Certainly hope so. All right, and now playing the part of Jane Covington, none other than Betsy Crossley, to introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians. Betsy.
I think I'm on here. If I can put on my video, it'll be even better. All right, we have some guests today, and I think I'm going to start with Sid Smith. He wants to introduce his two guests.
And I got a grandson-in-law, Owen Combs. Say,
All right, welcome. All right, let's see. Next will be Steve Grissom. Where are you, Steve? Oh, there we go.
I'm pleased to have with me today Jeff Brown. Jeff moved here from Virginia, and I became acquainted. We have a mutual friend that I had met at a Rotary International Convention in Germany, and it was on, of course, human trafficking. And so she connected me when Jeff moved to Franklin. And so Jeff's he's been my right hand and helping me do a lot of different things. So I appreciate Jeff and glad to have him here today.
Welcome, Jeff. If you have a special guest.
I do. I'm so proud to have Devin home for the summer, back from Texas A&M. And she's out there discovering what's going on in the world. I think she's excited about it. So I'm happy she's here.
And I am thrilled to see a lot of faces that we haven't seen in a long time. It's good to be back. Now for
Happy Bucks. And I'll start us out because I asked Michael Heineman what today is, because Michael Heineman and Skip Hebert have both been married 44 years today, not to each other. That would be awkward. But happy anniversary to Michael. Yeah, you have to put in $44 for that.
If only there was a basket to put it in.
Trying to write video basket and it's the same kind of. The multi-talented basket. Multitask.
I should probably take either the camera or the basket from you.
I am happy that my daughter has joined me. Stand up, stand up. Oh, my shy daughter. This is my 9-year-old daughter, Sophie. And Sophie just came from the Brentwood High cheerleading camp. Sophie's a big time cheerleader over at Premier Athletics. And this week was the annual high school cheerleading camp. Hopefully she'll be on the sidelines one day. You think you're going to make it, Soph? She's very shy. You want to do a back handspring for us? No, probably not. Okay. Thank you for coming, Soph.
I will make my happy birthday golf announcement. He's not here, he's in Michigan, but right before he left this week, Curry Andrews pulled in our last platinum sponsor. Now everybody's going, what is the platinum sponsor? The platinum sponsor is our $5,000 sponsor. We have 2 of them, and that makes both of them so. So Curry pulled in $5,000, and Curry's gone, so we got to fill the gap while he's gone. So everybody get on those sponsorships you've got. There's a bunch of them outstanding. Thank you.
Anybody on Zoom happy? Can't forget about our Zoom folks. They're all unhappy. All right, moving along. All right, so I did say we have an announcement about next week's meeting location. It's not a new announcement. I made it last week, but y'all don't listen to me, so I'm gonna make it again. This facility is closed next Friday. Nobody knew that, including the people at this facility, until last Friday. So we had to kind of make an emergency move, and we are back at Spring Hill Suites next week for a 1-week only encore performance at Spring Hill Suites. Again, so very thankful to them for saving our bacon. Have I mentioned that you should really consider them for all of your lodging and meeting needs in the city of Brentwood? Please use Spring Hill Suites. They've been great to work with. So do not show up here next week. Show up at Spring Hill Suites. And then after our installation banquet the following week, we'll be back here, I hope, for good. That following week is the installation banquet, by the way, which is an official meeting of our club. So if you have not yet registered, please RSVP to Sherry Koss and let her know what you want to eat within the bounds of the menu, of course. And we do still have a few spots left, according to what she just said this morning. So please RSVP. That is Thursday night, June the 24th. We will not be meeting that next day, the Friday at noon, because our official meeting is Thursday night, June 24th. All right, everybody clear as mud on our meetings for the next 2 weeks. Yes. All right. So now we get to why you're really here, and that's trivia, of course. Thank you. All right. So by now you all know the rules. I'm going to tell you what those rules are anyway. So we will ask a question to the folks in the room, and they will have an answer to that question. If they get the answer right, they get a point. If they don't get a point. Then we'll go to the folks on Zoom and we'll ask them a question. Same deal. You can use social media. You can also use your broad knowledge base of general facts that nobody really cares about. Okay, so we're going to start today. Which way are we going to start? We're going to start with those in the room. Folks in the room, here's your first trivia question. This man who won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921, is widely believed to possess one of the most brilliant minds in history. He's known best for his development of the theories of relativity and his infamous equation, E equals mc squared. Who is this person? Charles. Charles says Albert Einstein. Charles is not out of the ordinary. The fake news media and biased history books would have you believe that this was, in fact, Albert Einstein. But I'm here to reveal to you today that the correct answer to this question is Sid Smith. All right, to Zoom we go. Zoom. This man of steel possesses the ability to fly, X-ray vision, super speed, super hearing, super breath, and otherworldly superhuman strength. Name this superhuman Zoom.
Sid Smith.
Sid Smith.
You guys catch on. Yes, the correct answer is Sid Smith. The S on the chest obviously stands for Sid. All right, back into the room. This most feared heavyweight fighter, known as the greatest, was said to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Who is this man? No, it's not I don't even know who that guy is. Yeah, it's Sid Smith, of course. All right. Zoom. Oh, I got more coming. These may not necessarily be the truth, but they are intended to build goodwill and better friendship. Okay. Zoom. He is picking up a shotgun shell, y'all. This Rotary Club of Brentwood member is so interesting, he lives vicariously through himself. Zoom.
Sid Smith.
That is correct, Jay. Sid Smith. All right. In the room, which Rotary Club of Brentwood member has once had an awkward moment just to see how it felt? Sid Smith, that's correct. Back to Zoom. I know you're getting the hang of this, but I wrote these questions, y'all, so we're going to ask them all. All right, so Zoom. Name this Rotary Club of Brentwood member who is fluent in all languages, including 3 that only he speaks.
Oh, could it be Sid Smith?
That is Sid Smith, correct.
Wow.
All right. Oddly enough, we're tied. So the tie-breaking question. We can answer in unison if you really want to. This Rotary Club of Brentwood member's business card is completely blank, except for 3 words. I'll call you. Everyone in unison, Sid Smith. That's right. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, the answer to every one of our trivia questions today is Sid Smith, because Sid is today's program speaker. The temptation for me was to get up here and say, you know, he's a club member, he needs no introduction, but clearly with the questions that we just answered, there are things that y'all don't know about Sid that I have found out in digging into his bio in preparation for today. So not only does he need this introduction, he deserves this introduction. Sid, as you do already know, has been a pillar of this club since he joined it in 1984, when I was 10. He's a past president and a Bob Billington Award recipient. He's also a major donor and a 4 Avenues of Service Award winner. Sid retired as CEO of world-famous engineering firm Reagan Smith Associates, where his career spanned 4 decades. But as much as I begged and begged, Sid did not come here to demonstrate his engineering prowess by building a life-size Golden Gate Bridge out of Legos. No, today, he's here to do something even more remarkable. In all sincerity, he's going to share with us about his time serving with the U.S. Army from 1964 to 1967, including his tour in Vietnam. But before he gets up here to speak, I do have a few other things that he might not have time to talk about this morning, but I thought you should know. You may not know this, but a rattlesnake once bit Sid. After 5 days of excruciating pain, the snake finally died. You know, Sid once ran a marathon just because it was on his way. If opportunity knocks and Sid's not home, opportunity waits. Panhandlers give him money. Cuba imports cigars from Sid Smith. If he were to punch you or me in the face, you'd have to fight off the urge to thank him. Sid bowls overhand, and he likes it. Mosquitoes refuse to bite Sid out of pure and utter respect. Ladies and gentlemen, please show your respect by putting your hands together for the most interesting man in the world, Sid Smith.
I didn't know exactly what I was going to say, but I do now. I'm completely going to depart from script. I had a script, but you're in trouble, boy. Let me tell you where this comes from, and I will try to stop before I get through. And I've got a shotgun shell here. I want you to point to me if I don't bring it up. As a little boy growing up in Rutherford County on a cotton farm, I would hear on rainy days or days in the winter when it was cold, the workers would come into Mr. Herbert's old store and sit back by the big pot-bellied stove or the checkerboard. They play cards, but they talk about and cards and checkers, but they talked about World War II and the Korean War. And these are men that work for my dad on the place. They were not migrant workers. They're people that live there. So little boys sitting listening to this, wonder what's going on. That's kind of a background and the expectation in my family that if you're a male, you're expected to serve your time in the military. It's just a matter of when and what choice. So I didn't grow up thinking, am I going to go into the Army or the Navy or the Marines or whatever? I tried to make it fit of what I was going to do education wise. My dad was a medic in the Navy and got out like half a year, 6 or 8 months before World War II started. My uncle Austin was a mapper for the Corps of Engineers in the Philippines and the Pacific during World War II. Uncle Duncan was an aircraft mechanic. These are all his brothers, my uncles, in the Pacific Northwest for the Air Force. And my younger uncle, Uncle Roger, was a Marine lieutenant, and he died on an amphibious attack on Guam, there where they were making a beachhead. So the legacy was there. I had 2 cousins that were older. They had already both finished up in the Army. I'm next. I could, I guess, have left the family and said, I don't think I want to do this. It never entered my mind. So I just had to go ahead and see what I wanted to do. So I took ROTC in college. I came along and the World War II things are over. The Korean War is over. I graduated from college in '64. Had an engineering degree. I thought I'll take this, make a good living, and maybe I'll just be in the reserves. But that option went away. I had taken ROTC. You're commissioned at the same time you graduate. And I already had orders to where I was going in the engineer corps. That wasn't too bad. I got like the 15th or 16th of December, 1964. I graduated on off quarter because I was a co-op student where I went to school at Georgia Tech. Every course is taught every quarter. So you can graduate any quarter. They have the big commencement in the spring, but you can finish. The 29th of December, I got married to Miss Joan. The 3rd of January, we went into the Army at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And I thought this is going to be fun, and it was. We were engineer soldiers. I got stationed at Fort Rucker, Alabama, which was the home of Army aviation. At one time, there were more helicopters there than the rest of the world put together. There were like 4,000 helicopters. That's something to talk about, but where do you park 4,000 helicopters? Where do they fly? They can't all take off at the same time at the same place. They can't all fuel up at the same time at the same place. Our job as a separate engineering company with this special mission was to accommodate that kind of thing where they're training mechanics, they're training crewmen, they're training pilots. And so there is much activity there going on. This unit had come down from Fort Bragg, the 92nd Engineer Battalion, specially for the aviation. It was good work. I enjoyed it. The troops enjoyed it. It was mostly that we operated like a contractor, but we had on uniforms. We still had to do the Army stuff. I was the junior officer in the company. I had PT, I thought, forever with the whole company. My wife would say, "Are you ever going to get out of that duty?" Because we never ate breakfast together. I'm up at the companies. We did live off post. Later we did. Fort Rucker was a very nice facility. It was interesting too. The Army Research Board was there. We worked for them. We worked on things. And I'm not going to get into today about low-lex dropping, where you drop trucks and tanks and things like that out of aircraft without a parachute. That's very experimental. It's also very damaging when it doesn't work. But we got into things like that. It was interesting work. I thought my time's going to be up because I had taken extra stuff during basic training. So my active duty is going to be about a year and 4 or 5 months. I got through Fort Rucker down to Christmas, came back on January of 1966, 65. Now I'm 66. I'm on the downhill thing. I'm thinking July, August, I'm getting out. I will have done my turn. I think I've served honorably, and I can satisfy my family peers that I'm okay. I'm one of the boys. We came back from a January trip home. My first sergeant, and that's what I need on right now. Sergeant Smith of our company, he had come down from North Carolina, and I were the only two out of that whole base of an infantry battalion that was stationed there. This large engineer company that was stationed there. He and I are on orders to go to Vietnam. You think, how did that come down and find me? It had to do with some of that stuff I'd been doing. I didn't realize that my resume was getting fixed and glorified and all that good stuff. And I enjoyed doing that stuff, but the Army is always looking. So the other thing I want to say, a young lieutenant, a young officer going into any military organization needs to have somebody that can help him because you don't know what's going on. I was raised a civilian. I didn't know how this stuff works. You could learn some things like courtesy or stuff like that, but you don't learn how it all works. I don't need to get in a little picking fuss or fight with a private or a spec 4 or a buck sergeant. Tell him a time or two and that's it. If he doesn't do it, tell the first sergeant. He's the man that takes care of those kind of things. Tom, you hearing what I'm talking about? You don't do that. You don't cross that line. This man right here was the one that took me aside and said, "Are you new in the Army?" And I said, "Very much so." He said, "Let's have coffee a couple of times and I'll tell you how it works." And he did. And it was good. And I got along with the troops. They get along with you. You don't violate some of those codes that are there. You may think you're a hot shot, you're an airborne air assault, super duper lieutenant with all the good things on your lapel. They don't care. They're draftees. They don't want to be there. You just represent another problem to them. Sergeant Smith, first Sergeant Smith, had been in the Army about 25 years. He was a good man. He was married, he had children. This was probably going to be his last tour. He was an engineer soldier. He and I came down on orders together at the same time. When you get those orders, they give you about 2 months to get your affairs in order, to get things fixed and be ready to go. And there is no appeal or could I visit with you a little bit about this? Could I change it? There's none of that. It's there. It's got your name. It's no doubt about it, your serial number, your classification, the whole bit. It's you. And you got picked because of background, training, experience, and they said I had a lot more time left than I did. I can question that, but you don't question the Army much. They say, as long as you got that uniform on, you belong to us, and you do. Anyway, made plans. What's the next picture? before we left, we did have some time there. This unit, one of the things that was, and I thought, why don't I get put in a unit like this? Delta Company of the 92nd was a Strat company. I still don't know what that means, Tom. We talked about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it means you got to be ready all the time. We went to the field every month, rain or shine, and it did snow in Alabama when I was there. We went no matter what. You went on Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday night, come back Sunday afternoon, no matter what it's doing. This infantry outfit, who was supposed to be real good, they thought we were kind of funny. They never went to the field. But here's an old engineer, a bunch of dummy engineers, they're doing this. This unit had capabilities that some of the others didn't because of its ability to load up and get anywhere around the world in a short time. I didn't realize again for a little while, I'd been put in a unit like that. But we played in, one of the good things about it, the Army does try to have activities that will keep the troops busy. We played in a basketball tournament. I was on the team. We played at night with the other groups that were there. At that post, there was this big engineer company. There's an infantry battalion, and then all these students, they're officers, they're sergeants, they're corporals, and they're taking various things that have to do with aviation. They're also warrant officers that are learning to fly. It is all oriented to that. We're in support, but we still have to be a regular Army outfit that has this designation. So that's the reason we went. We had to come in from the field to get our trophy. And I kept saying to the colonel, can I just stay in? No, you go out there. We'll bring you back. That's where we got our little trophy. That's the last place we look like anybody else in the wintertime. The next one. The battalion that we were under for administration, the 5th Battalion, 31st Infantry, was not our parent unit. We were under them for administration. We had parades. I don't know how many of y'all have been in the Army had parades. I hated parades because it happened on Friday at 1 or 2 o'clock. You line up on the parade field, it's hot. You got a visiting dignitary, you parade around, you stand in place. It was the Army stuff. I don't mind doing the hard stuff. I don't like some of the pomp and ceremony. But we would also have battalion parties. We were attached to this infantry outfit. Those were pretty nice. They were dinners. Sometimes they were picnics. This is the last one I went to. Sergeant Llewellyn there, that's my wife laughing. That's me. You had to buy, as a young officer, you had to buy blues. Did you sell your blues, Tom? Did you sell them or you still have them? I probably can't even mind you. I got rid of those things as quick as I could, but there were some times where they would say dress apparel is appropriate. And so you come with all your goodies on and whatnot, but that's one of them there. My company commander is on the right side of that picture. He is a engineer officer, but he's also an aviator, and he was glad to get stationed there because he kept his rating up. He's still flying while he's there. So there were some good times. There were some times, and the being used to saying used to be, the military runs on about 4 fluids: gasoline, diesel, LP, 5, aviation fuel, and alcohol. You didn't have to drink, but you did have to come to the party. Let's go to the next one. That's the last staff meeting I'm having right there at our company headquarters. Sergeant Dykes is writing some things up there. 1 March, we're planning ahead. I've already gotten the orders. I'm getting ready. It is hard to be interested in what's going on there when you're under orders to leave. You're not going to be here. You're not going to see this stuff happen. So that's my last time to be talking about projects in March of '66. Next one. This is to give you some idea. Most people say, where is Vietnam? It is hard to see. This is the world. It's off this little long peninsula of geography, but it touches the South China Sea. It is a long, narrow north and south piece of land. Immediately at home, this is Cambodia. This is Laos. This is Thailand. Most of you heard of Thailand. All of that is the Indo-Chinese peninsula. Heavy French influence from the late 1800s. Okay, Lemus. There it is. My station places were thin range. This was the base. The 101st was there. We were stationed close to the 101st for housing and set up. There was a very large civilian-built runway and accommodation there for the Air Force. There was a bomber base there. There was a B-52 base there. There were probably 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 Air Force people there. It was fenced. It was several thousand acres. It was a big flat place right next to the beach. It was secure. If you're in the middle of that, you're secure. Nobody's gonna come get you. Nobody can shoot far enough over to get to you. Well, I thought, I'm leading a charmed life. I'm here again in a good place. We were there. The 101st was there to do their operation out of there. We were there in support of the 101st, right out of Kentucky, to build roads, build places for them. The big thing when I got there was building what you call tent pads. The platoon tent accommodates about 30 to 40 men, one tent. You can't just set that up in the dirt. It'll pull down. It has to be set on concrete with little anchors on the side. But once you get it down there and get it tied up, it won't blow away. It'll stay there pretty well. That's what we were doing. And another lieutenant and I were running a rock quarry. So that was a good place to work. Let's go to the next one. Whatever's next, I'll go with whatever it is. Let's look at that. This gives a little bit of a representation. Mainly the one I want you to see is right here. There's rainfall 50 inches in Tennessee a year, 50, 55. This is 80 inches in the summer where I'm going. It rains all the time. It clouds up and rains when it just rains. We're right on the South China Sea, just inland. It comes in off the South China Sea. It rains down there on the paddies. It comes to the mountains and rains. It stops over, we used to say at Thailand, turns around, comes back and rains again. I've never seen anything like it. We don't have rain like that. We said we had about 80 inches from April to November. If you live there, you'd believe that. There are not many days that it doesn't rain. And you're going to say, how did you work? We just kept working. I'll show you. Okay. There is where it's laid over on top of, that's the country that's North and South Vietnam, on top of the United States, just to feel for scale. It is very far north and south, right there to DMC, which is about right here. It's only about 80 miles wide. But it has some long pieces there. North Vietnam is communist. South Vietnam was democratic. That's who we were assisting. That was, and the duty was good. And I thought, I'm leading a charmed life. This is just as good as Fort Rucker. And I'm getting credit for a foreign tour. And this is really great. That was where we were up at the rock quarry. That's looking down on the big cantonment area down there where the 101st is and the runways behind it. This is a secure area. And so I'm thinking I'm doing pretty good. That's the last time I thought that. Next time. This is my sergeant. I got some orders one day. The little guy at the colonel's Jeep came out to see me and said, you need to come see the colonel. And I said, what's happened? Because I know I've been doing my job. He said, you need to come see the colonel. So I thought, there's either a sickness in my family or a death or something like that. That's usually when one of the troops got called out and taken into headquarters. There's something wrong at home. So I was very concerned. And this old guy been in the Army a long time. I think God made him ugly when he was born. And he just developed it further. And he said, Smith, you're our man. We've got a special project that Saigon's given us. We want to build a hasty runway up in the mountains in Lam Dong province, just one province away from the end of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And I'm not flattered at all. I just said, I want you to go over that again. He said, yeah, we got it here. He showed me on the map. And I said, but I only have about 2 or 3 months to go. He said, you have as many months as I want you to have. When you have the uniform on, you belong to them. You can't go AWOL from Vietnam. I mean, how you gonna get home? Some of my kids used to say, well, why you just catch a flight? I said, there are no flights to catch. You know, everything over there belongs to military. Somebody's gonna say, where are you going, Lieutenant? You're not on the manifest. You can't get here. Anyway, we went over it. The big brass at Saigon had decided at that time, this is in early 1966, we need to have more troops down here where the Ho Chi Minh Trail empties in at several places along here. And we don't want to station them there, but we want to be able to move them in there quickly. So we need a big runway that'll accommodate a C-130 or Caribou. Y'all know you know what a Caribou is. It's an Army fixed wing aircraft. It'll hold 50, 60 troops. It's much more than a helicopter, but it's a fixed wing land. It has to land on a runway. It has to land on the ground. It is a rough area aircraft. It can land in the mud, but it needs to be straight, and the mud doesn't need to be too deep. The C-130, I hope you know what a C-130 is. That's an Air Force aircraft. It can haul heavy stuff and lots of troops. Need a place to land those. Where we're going, they've never even seen an airplane up there, much less this kind of an aircraft. So I said, you know, why did you shouldn't do that? I said, why'd you pick me? He said, well, you got more time. I said, I don't have a lot of time. He said, you have as much time as I want you to have. And you have worked on this before. I thought, this is my lucky day. I'm just winning our way around. So then he said, we have picked 2 sergeants that have worked on this kind of thing before. And we want you to go up there and do a reconnaissance. The reconnaissance was scary enough because we couldn't land. I went on a chopper, we couldn't land because there was ground fire going on. So we had to move over and land away from that and kind of come in here close. We finally got it done. The 2 sergeants he had given to me were Sergeant Richardson and Sergeant Anderson. This is Sergeant Richardson. He was from Louisiana. That man had muscles in his smile. That guy was huge. He doesn't look like it, but he is. And he was a very gentle, strong man. And he was good with the troops. The other one we just seen a few minutes is Sergeant Anderson from Baltimore, Maryland. Good man. They're both family people. They had kind of volunteered for this. And they said, we're glad you volunteered, Lieutenant. I said, I didn't volunteer. I had been drafted. They said, we'll take care of you. We'll take care of you. They did. They were good men. They were good moral men. They were tough. They weren't afraid. They had picked the men they wanted, and we had about 30 some odd. I don't have the set of orders, about 30 some odd. And we're putting together our unit, and the colonel called me in and he said, do you know what this is? I said, yes, it's a shotgun shell. He said, I'm giving you a different kind of weapon. I've been used to an M16. I'm not going to get, an M14. I'm not going to get into that discussion. That's a whole nother discussion. The M16 was the biggest piece of junk that the Defense Department ever bought, and it killed a lot of people. It was bad. M14 troops used to say you could leave it in the creek overnight, get it out in the morning, and it'll shoot. You could put dirt in there in the chamber, and it would shoot. It was a good piece of equipment. I said, what is this about? He said, we're issuing you a different kind of weapon. A shotgun. It was a Winchester Model 12 pump with nothing in the pipe. Holes 5 in the tube and 1 in the chamber. I said, what I need that. He said, well, there may be some close contact. And you don't really have to aim very much. So I also got that Winchester with a bayonet. It was not a civilian, it didn't come from a civilian gun dealer. Did you see any of those, Tom? It had a bayonet on it. And I thought, this is just getting worse all the time. It's just, we had to do some reconnaissance trips up there. We made it, we looked, we met the people from Saigon. They laid out where the runways are going to go. These people up there these are traditional Vietnamese people, not the Montagnards, but the regular Oriental looking people. They were just infatuated with us. I mean, here we are, a bunch of big, ugly Americans walking around looking where we're going. And we're trying to set this runway so that it runs between a little town of Bowlock and a little Montagnard, which is the mountain people village, because they wanted this orientation with the winds to be able to land these things most of the time and take off anytime. And we did work that out. And these guys in their nice crisp uniforms, starts from Saigon, came up, showed us where it's going, and they left. It was getting late in the afternoon. I said, we need to talk, but they said, we got to go. I mean, they didn't want to hang around up there when it got to be 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Anyway, we got that. We went back to Phan Rang and we had to take our equipment up the road to go through there. It was about 55 or 60 miles. One of the things I noticed when I was at Fort Bragg, you're sitting in the bleachers as an officer candidate, is they were talking about aerial reconnaissance and air cover or air escort. And I thought, big deal. I never had to worry with that. Here I am, a year and a half, and I'm concerned about who's going to give me air escort and air cover, because we're going into the bad places and we need somebody up there who's looking around watching for us. Y'all know what an L-19 is? It's a very small aircraft. Only 2 people can ride in it, and they don't need to be big. And he goes around with 2 white phosphorus rounds under each wing, and he's watching for bad guys as you go up the road or you cross the rice paddy, and as you get into the mountains. He can't see much in the mountains, but he can see movement sometimes. And he may just drop around right there just to let us know. And he's already called back. The reason it's an Air Force guy, not an Army guy, is because he can call an Air Force Phantom, and the Phantom can be there where we are from that base in like 3 minutes. And the bad guys know that. So they're not going to shoot at us. If they do, we'll pinpoint that right quickly. It is going to be bad there in just 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. So the threat was coming if we come. So we finally get there, we get it done, we get it graded out. Fort Campbell had experimented with a new rubber cover on an earth runway. It was flexible, about like an inner tube, but it came in rolls, and you laid it out on an earth embankment or compacted earth runway and drove big thumbtacks into it, covered it up. The first one they didn't work, tore all to pieces, tore up the aircraft. And then they said, but you got to fix it right. And neither of my 2 sergeants had done it. We had only seen the training film. We only saw the little manual on it. And our troops had never seen it. We had, and I'm not getting into all the stuff we had with the problems. I would like to tell about the little boy. We finally got it fixed. We got it to work. One other human interest thing. Where's the little boy? This little boy right here was an orphan. These are all, that's a big sister. The cook had food left over from almost every meal. And these little kids have been coming out from the little village there, and they're orphans and they don't have anything to eat. And he'd been giving them some food. So they got to be pretty close to us. They're standing at our gate. We're inside a perimeter that we've built for ourselves. We're pretty secure from small people coming in to get us. I'm talking about not a large force, but a squad couldn't get to us because of the mines and everything we had set up. These little guys were our gate every week, every day, and he would give them food. So he wanted to ride with me all the time. I drove out by myself to the job and come back. He wanted to ride. He spoke French, Vietnamese, and English all well. His name was Ku, K-U, Nguyen Ku. You're saying, how could that old guy remember all that? I'm writing it down. And I wrote it down so I would keep that. One day I said, Ku, you can't ride with me. If something happens to you, you and I are both in trouble. He said, I really got to talk to you. We can just pull down there. So I pulled down there and he said, you're going to be martyred tonight. You're going to have a mortar attack tonight. Well, we had mortar holes next to our bunks where the guys are sleeping on cots. You can go down in there, but a mortar hole to be effective, when you go in it, your head needs to be below the surface of the plane around you. Mortars don't, unless it's a direct hit, it doesn't get you. It's a horizontal shrapnel that gets you. If it lands right there, it gets you back out here because the stuff spreads. So we told the troops that night at supper. They dug their holes deeper. We're living in small tents. I'm in a two-man tent with Sergeant Richardson, Sergeant Anderson. And we dug our holes a little deeper. And it started raining like it always does. And it rained and rained and rained and rained. And the next morning, the troops were saying, you know, you didn't have very good intelligence. Your S2 wasn't very good. And the little guy called me. He said, it rained too much. They couldn't shoot. But it's coming tonight. And it did. And we were ready. We lost some things torn up in the motor pool. We didn't lose a man. Nobody got hurt. Those are the kind of things I'm writing about. This little guy could 2 minutes. I see you, limits. I'll get done. Those are the kind of things I'm writing about in my book. There's a little about the war, but it's about people. It's about things. And people like the folks that were soldiers with me, you get close to them. And one of them gets ready to rotate back home. I hate to see him going back home because he's such a good guy. I let them rotate back to the headquarters about every 3 weeks and be gone a week. And the sergeant did too. I never did leave. I stayed till my time was up and we had the project finished. But if you take care of the troops, they'll take care of you. That works well in business. I think all of this made me a better boss. I in the end enjoyed this, but it was, my threshold of fear now is way higher than yours is. If somebody threatens me, I'm not going to be too concerned until I see his gun, see it's loaded and it's in my head. It's going to have to get that close. Anything else you want to ask about it? I was there. I got to come home. I got to come home. I was late. Let me tell you one thing that soldiers and people have now is they have Skype and international phones. I never heard Miss Jones' voice for 7 months, over 7 months. Her letters and my letters would sometimes come in chunks. I tried to write a little every day. It rained all the time. I got letters that got wet, but I had a little box to put them in. But the mail was very, and that's one of my chapters in my book is the mailman. And I'm not going to tell that story, but he was a sorry rascal. He was a lieutenant. He'd hear one shot and he'd go back to fan rang. He wouldn't get, but there's a lot of little things like that that are human interest. That's what my book consists of. The backdrop of the story is what we were doing. One of the things is, you know, I go to bed at night and I think the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese know we're here. We're one county away from one county, like a county, one province away from Cambodia. It wouldn't take very much for them to run across here tonight and get us or get after us. A big force. What are we going to do? We just put more mines outside. We do more mining outside the thing, but it keeps you tense. And when you finally do get home and you can sleep, it is a sound, restful sleep because you really haven't slept well for almost 9 months. That's it. I'll take any questions you might have. We've got to wind it up here. I got about 3 or 4 minutes. Any questions or comments?
Tell them a little bit about when you were a point man, what that is and what you went through.
We had to do some reconnaissance before we were going to do a rock quarry off to the side. That was outside that large Air Force compound. And the colonel wanted to have, it's kind of in the woods up on the side of the hill. And it's unsecured area. And the colonel says, I need somebody here to do that and who's had a little training in that kind of thing. And I'd sat there, I didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. And he said, Smith, you're the newest guy. You got the job. Who are you going to pick? So I had to pick 2 or 3 times. And we had to get up in there and we're going in the daytime and it's scary, but at nighttime, it's really scary because you can usually see what they're doing most of the time. There's a light, there's something will show there. So point man on a patrol is scary stuff. Even if you're going to just take a little look and do a little reconnaissance here and see, is this secure? What is here? Are there any little bitty hiding holes here? Are there any little trap doors where there's a little place? Are there paths up here in the woods? One other thing, a shotgun with a double dram loading, and this is a double-aught buck. There are only 9 of them in here. The Viet Cong had never heard anything like that. They had never seen anything like that. And 2 or 3 of these would wind up an ambush. They went back in the woods because this goes out, when it gets out about 100 feet, it's that wide. It's not a bullet. And I finally found out why the colonel gave me that. But engineers don't do body counts. Engineers don't go out and say what they did. They just secure themselves. Anything else? Thank you. That's an old soldier's story. I'm putting it on paper.
Thank you, Sid. We appreciate you setting us straight, telling us the truth of your bio. Appreciate that. Sid's book, Sid is writing a book. You mentioned that he was writing one. He's not quite finished with it yet. So if you want to be a subject of one of those chapters, perhaps introduce him in a way that he's not satisfied with, and you may end up in it. But as soon as he does finish that, he will let us know and let us know how to get copies of that as well. No, we're going to get copies of it. If you are so inclined to be the table captain of your table today, please do at least assign one person at each table to make sure they get put away back in the closet and the tablecloths and trash and stuff are removed. The chairs, once again, can stay right where they are. We do not need to put the chairs up against the walls, but we do need to put the tables back in the closets. Don't forget to RSVP to Sherry Koss about the installation banquet if you would like to attend. Don't forget not to show up here next week, but at Spring Hill Suites instead. And don't forget to go out and get your whole sponsors for Larry Kane and his entire team and your team. Or your bigger sponsors. Yes, all of the sponsors of all the types. Any other announcements for the good of the club before we adjourn? All right, that's it. We are adjourned.